on TikTok. That counts for something.
Yeah.
All right, we're live. No little starting soon screen. I messed up the beginning. Anyway, hi, welcome to the Iron Circus Geek Show. I am Kel McDonald, and I am your host. Spike is not here because she is buried in paperwork. And I have two guests this week.
Holla! What up, though? Hi, I'm Jules Rivera. I'm a syndicated artist working with King Features. In 2020, I took over a cartoon strip titled Mark Trail that follows an environmentalist adventurer who's fighting against climate change and the bad guys who causes it. When I'm not doing that, I'm on TikTok running my own cartoon, Love Jules, in which, it's kind of like just what if a variety show happened out of my head and just spilled out onto TikTok. So yeah, you'll learn something, you'll get some cheese man, you'll get some salt, you'll get some entertainment, you'll get some lulz. It'll be great.
I'm Mariah McCourt. I am a writer and editor primarily in comics, although I also do illustration. I've been working in this fun little field now for 23 years, and my resume is way too long to really talk about. So instead, I would love to talk about this really fun anthology and cozy mysteries, which are one of my absolute favorite genres in the world.
Mariah and Jules are doing a comic for Perfect Crime Party, which you can back right now on BackerKit. And their wonderful comic is about what happens when ladies can't easily get no-fault divorces.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Yeah. The answer is it's gonna be someone's fault.
Yep. Why don't you both tell the audience about your comic?
Okay, so Mariah, how did you come up with the concept for the story?
Well, so it's called Prim and Burn, which is a little bit of an homage to, personally, I'm a huge fan of British mysteries. I grew up watching them with my grandparents on Masterpiece Theater. So when the call came out for this particular anthology for cozy mysteries, I was like, ooh, because I haven't gotten to work in the genre yet. I mostly have done sort of spookier sorts of projects. Is usually my wheelhouse. And so I'd always wanted to tell kind of like an Agatha Christie style mystery. So that was like my first thought. And then after that, because I had taken a trip to the UK last year, one of the cities that I went to was Edinburgh. And Edinburgh has a really fascinating history of murder. Specifically, it's a very, very murdery city. There's very famous, and I'm sure anybody who's even slightly aware of this kind of stuff, there's the body snatcher guys who became serial killers. And so that's a big part of Edinburgh's history, and also medical sort of breakthroughs there. Also literary folks. You've got Robert Louis Stevenson and Conan Doyle and different folks there. So I just decided that it made a really great setting for specifically a Victorian era mystery, because that's a personal interest of mine, is the Victorian era. And I really wanted to tell kind of I wanted to tell a cozy murder story, if there's such a thing. Because my favorite ones growing up were like Miss Marple and Poirot. And to me, there is something, it's not that murder's cozy, it's more the solving of the crime, I think, part is usually. But I really liked the premise here of getting away with it, and like wanting to have characters where you would root for them to get away with it, where there was a scenario where you would go, yeah, like they absolutely should get away with this.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, I wanted to make sure as the artist, once I started reading the script, I'm like, oh, I have enough terrible exes to fill this one up easy. So like,
I love that you brought that element to it, Jules. That was great.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh no, this is based on real terrible men that I've met in my life. Yup.
That reminds me of so Kat Ferris, who's an artist who also has a story in Perfect Crime Party.
Nice.
She drew a comic called My Boyfriend is a Bear. And there is a like double page spread that is all the main characters' horrible exes. And she drew her friends that volunteered to be a horrible ex. But it's just a fun like
Yeah, I worked with
That's
her on
that's a
Emily and the
super fun
Stranger.
homage.
Yeah, that's a fun. I mean, I think most people have, like some kind of horrible ex story, and I think
Oh
that's
man,
kind
yeah.
of like, yeah, and I was definitely kind of going for like, what kind of scenario would you root for characters in to get away with it? When would you be kind of maybe okay with a little murder? And also like a time frame where this scenario, like the situation, you would go like, yeah, that's justified.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, like yeah, just awesome. Time to go. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really for me like the inspiration of it, and then Jules took it and really ran with it because you gave it this whole other, I think, layer of catharsis because you added that personal sort of touch to it. So, yeah, it
I
took
mean,
it
quite
and made it.
literally, I got to kill two birds with one stone. That was pretty cool. But it's okay. And see, the why we do this in artwork is so that the regular guy who inspired this, he gets to walk around fine. He's okay. He's gonna walk down the street. He's gonna have a sandwich and probably enjoy that sandwich. Like he is completely unharmed. We
Yep.
are just getting our own catharsis here, based on the people who have been violent to us in our lives. And yeah. So, but I try to also keep the character designs to be kind of general enough so everybody
Yeah,
has
yeah,
someone who kind of, they're like, yeah, I know a guy like
I
that.
know
You
I
know?
know a
yeah,
shithead.
yeah. I know somebody who's just terrible. Like, yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. That's one of the things I really liked when you started starring pages, Jules, was that you could see right away, like, oh yeah, like we all know this type. Like
We all
you can
know the
see it.
type, right? You see the guy's face, you instantly know. You're like, oh, this guy's a user. Oh, this guy's a boozer. Oh, this
Yeah,
guy's a loser. Like, we all know the types because cis men, straight cis to men, they're not that creative. They only have like 3 or 4 personas that they sharpen up for the world, to present. And yeah, so we all know the specific types of people and how they show up.
yeah,
So yeah, I had a lot of fun trying to make this happen. Also in a period piece, also in a piece in a place where I've never actually been. And,
yeah.
Mariah was just, feeding me through a fire hose of all this reference material from
Yeah,
Edinburgh.
I took so many
And
pictures. I was like, sorry, there's a lot. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm like, I really hope that I caught the kind of vibe that we wanted to
Oh
go
yeah.
for.
uh
And
That's
and
the thing.
I also colored it in watercolors, and it's funny. I happened to see you talking on Blue Sky earlier about watercolors being your thing. So I'm glad that I accidentally made it in the style, of
No, I like that a
watercolors.
lot
That
because it's
yeah,
funny. Watercolor is something I taught myself. My original degree is in illustration, and I actually learned painting first through acrylics, and then oil, which is a weird. Usually people do it the other way around. And then because I was traveling often, I really needed like quick color work to be able to do, and watercolor terrified me because it's not a you have to kind of let it do its thing sometimes. Like you can't just always be precise. I mean, you don't have to. You can be more when you learn how to do it more. But I was sort of terrified of it. I sort of taught myself, so I'm sure none of my techniques are correct. But I've come to love it a lot and what it specifically does as a medium and how different it is from others. Like I love each one for the different things that they do. But yeah, I'm actually watercoloring some little postcard-sized illustrations right now for my Patreon. So while we're working on this, I am currently painting little axolotls drinking tea.
I
So I can.
I'm doing
Tea.
concept art for the next City Between story. That is what I'm working on.
and
Awesome.
yeah, that sounds awesome.
I
Jules, you're just so cool.
Jules is vibing.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
I
I
think
mean,
so.
I'm working on prepping some ink files for Mark Trail because I'm working with an inker. So I'm working on just prepping a few of those things and then throwing them over the fence, and then he gets to work on those. And of course, the set of files that I had to work on penciling this week to send off to him was like the hardest ever. I'm like, of course, we're in this part of the story. It's like multiple kayaks, in a cave on a river. All kinds of crazy
in
crap is happening, and I'm like, oh boy.
in the chat we have Oxalotls drinking tea. Sounds heckin' adorable. And Christian Cheney saying watercolor's always fun because it's unpredictable.
Yeah, that's what I've learned from it. It was a really good lesson for me to get out of my comfort zone when I started painting with them, and now they've become something where like I'm now the kind of person who goes to YouTube and finds like watercolor videos of people talking about different sets where they're like, these ones granulate, and I'm like, yes they do, and it's so cute. So like I've become that person with them. But I get kind of nerdy about art supplies, I guess, in a way. So I love watching people make stuff.
Last Emerald City, I was talking to Janet Lee, who had just gotten glitter-filled watercolors.
Oh,
Yes.
I
Oh.
too.
Ooh, I literally just sweat right there when you said that.
Yeah, they're.
Like,
I was
wow.
like, oh, that's where it's at.
Oof, fan me.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I have some metallic ones that do have that kind of like shimmer. They're really, it's amazing what they're able to do with pigment and stuff now, because you wonder like some of them are really opaque and I wasn't sure how they would be. I've used a couple for like accent on you know, like traditional pieces and stuff, because scanning them they can be a little wonky, but in terms of like when you see them in person, they look really beautiful. And Janet's an amazing artist, so I have a feeling that those like her little postcard size art, like I have a couple pieces of hers.
Yeah.
They're so beautiful.
I love it. Or can I see like later on what you're working on? That sounds amazing. I'm pretty proud of the stuff that I've done, but like seriously, I would love to see that watercolor work. I'm such a nerd for watercolors.
They're such an interesting thing. I just have this set that I'm working on right now. They are a small company. Usually I use Winsor and Newton is my go-to. And like I'm that dork who like went to London and was like, I'm going to the Winsor and Newton shop. Like that's me. But like that's fine. That's what artists do. We like that kind of stuff.
I in hindsight should have done that while I was in Scotland, because like many an artist, I use the Winsor Newton Series 7 brushes. But they haven't been as good as they used to be 10 years ago because of the sable fur that they're made out of. For some reason can't get imported into America right now. So I was like, in hindsight, I should have gone to an art supply store and stocked up on them in Scotland.
and just It's interesting too, because like I feel like it's interesting how art stores, because a lot of them are so much older in the United Kingdom, so you do kind of get this like the part of London that the Windsor and Newton shop is in is like cobblestones. So like you're there. Yeah. It's like, so you're kind of like, yep. And they've been there since I'm trying to think of the date now. I read this is me being super nerdy. I read their emails where they talk about the different pigments and the history of them, and I fully read those. So, but like this is a small brand called Deep Light, and I think they're Scandinavian, but they hand make watercolors, and they really do have these just like breathtaking sets of colors. Like I got all these smoky kinds of colors because I really wanted to do some more botanical art, and so these like I got this set that's just like the one I'm working with right now, and like they're not kidding. Like the granulation on one of these colors I'm using, the color's called Bramble, and it's like a deep kind of blackberry color, but like it fades out to gray at the edges and then kind of comes into these like beautiful purples and blues that kind of mesh together. It's like it looks like water and stone and things kind of mixed together. So it's I get nerdy about my art supplies just because like you know I love the whole process of making something. So for me that whole thing of like discovering a new color or trying out a slightly different technique.
Did you use that on the print that you made?
I did, yes.
So
I used.
I'm bringing it up on the screen. Mariah made a print that you can purchase in the backer kit for $20. It is a old-timey ad style drawing for the poison that is used in their story.
And And that was a really great idea that you had, Kel, of you were like, "Hey, how about like a fake ad for the poison?" I was like, "Oh my god, that's the best idea."
That was excellent. That was so
Isn't that?
good.
I was
And
like, "That's inspired." I love that.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I
that was
always
really
love
cool.
seeing your illustration work. You're always so kind of like mysterious, and sometimes you'll throw down a little animation. So, I mean, not animation, but illustration. And like, I just love
Yeah.
seeing it whenever it shows up. I'm like, finally, yes, we got a new one. Yes. Or at least I
Oh,
found
thank
one.
you.
We
Yeah,
like,
I'm
I
trying to
really,
be. Thank you. That's sweet. I love seeing your Mark Trail work because you have this really great way. Like, there's information in all these. Like, you're teaching people, but like it's fun and lively and cheeky at the same time. So I always love seeing those updates because, um, like I think there's probably people who'd be like, "Oh, environmental comics," and I'm like, "No, these are
They're
great."
great.
And like I
Yeah,
think you got a good audience,
I love them.
but
oh,
And
thank you. Thank
and
you. I'm so glad.
and
Yes.
I don't know if this is your intent, but you draw Mark Trail super hot.
That was literally how I sold him, because I was like, look, guys, if you hire me as this artist, I will update everybody and bring them into the 21st century and make sure that Mark is like smoking hot, because that actually lines up with the intent of the original artist. Like, I had to be a little mini historian of Mark Trail before I got onto Mark Trail. I did a lot of research. So like, Ed
Cool.
Dodd, he always made Mark Trail to be this like dark-haired adventurer. And if you look at like OG drawings of Mark Trail from the 40s, he was, he's got like tousled hair. He's got like these kind of, dark, mysterious eyes. Like he's drawn to be like an all-American, good-looking guy. So I'm like, I'm just continuing the spirit in which Mark Trail was intended, but I'm just happen to do it through a lens of people who actually know what a hot dude looks like.
Jules, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Have you played Baldur's Gate at all?
I have not. Is that a PC game?
Yeah, it's on everything. Baldur's Gate 3. And you need to look up a character named Hallison.
Hallison. I'm gonna go look this person up then. Okay. I mean, we
Baldur's
can
Gate is,
literally.
I think, universally considered one of the horniest games that
Yes.
has ever
Yes.
existed.
Wow.
You'll love
Okay.
it. I think you'll love it with the character designs. I only know that it's like D&D related because my husband's a game designer, and he was like, "Yeah," and I went, "Oh,
he's just the beefiest druid." And
Halston. Okay.
Hallison, yeah.
Hallison. Okay, let's see. I mean, he's definitely got some swagger. I really appreciate like the leaves on the shoulders. Okay, he's thick, he's cute. I did not know that Baldur's Gate was a horny. Oh, okay. I'm getting more into the. I'm scrolling down.
It's all the horny art.
Oh, very.
It's
that, and I think, what's the Greek mythology one?
Definitely.
Hades. Yeah.
Hades.
Yes. That's the other one. Yeah.
But
I love the art in those. They're so beautiful.
Hades has good art, and people are definitely thirsting for those characters. But Baldur's Gate is like, if your question is, "Can I fuck blank?" the answer is yes, most of the time.
Ooh, I can get it on with
Yeah.
anyone. All right, we love it.
My husband was playing it.
The only character.
Like,
The only character that apparently people are clamoring to fuck is
I found it.
What?
Oh, okay. I can see why people like him now. Okay.
Yeah, he got them big beefy arms. I'm just like, I want him to pick me up. And
awesome.
tell me more nature facts while you pick me up.
Exactly. Like, and we all need to be saved by a hot daddy. Also, I feel like, men could use a good role model to, kind of look to in terms of, what kind of guy they want to be. Because, like, what kind of role model are we giving men? And I'm like, no, I literally can do better with Mark Trail. Mark Trail is a dude.
When
really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good feel for it.
Yeah, that's
He cares about nature enough to punch someone in the face about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have people in the chat being like, I had a triad with Hallison and Karlak for reasons.
No.
Basically, Jules, where you have big beefy man in Hallison, Karlak is for if you would like big beefy lady.
Okay. I'm gonna Google this now. Oh wait, make sure.
They've got a nice range of, let's just say, I don't even want to say people. They've got a really just great range. Let's put it that way, of like body
Yeah.
types and personality types.
I
and stuff.
feel
There's
like
everybody.
Oh, okay. I can see how Carla could be very appealing. She's like fake beef wife. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
And she also
I
has the
would love her to pick me
personality of a Labrador Retriever.
Aww.
So she is the kindest character. People who don't like her are just wrong. And
Aw.
Your point. Hey, she looks really great, and I love how like thick and beefy she is. And
Or
yeah,
thick lady
I can imagine
all
that.
types.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
inspired many an interesting fan fiction.
yeah.
Or three.
Mariah, I think that Astarion could have been twinkier, but otherwise, yes, I agree with you that they had a good range of variety.
Yeah, it's funny. My husband, yeah, he's a game designer on oh my god, how am I blanking? Fortnite. So he plays obviously like a ton of games, and he was enjoying that one. He kept asking me, he's like, should I go for it with this character? And I was like, and I'm terrible, so I'm
Yes.
always like, yes. It doesn't matter. I'm
Make
like,
it
yes.
Make it sluttier. Make
Yeah.
it
I'm
hotter.
like, whatever you want to do it. Like romance, whoever.
Yeah.
I'm
'cause
just
I'm the
saying,
one
people
who-
care a lot about the environment when the guy who's telling you to care about the environment is hot. You're like,
yeah,
you know, he's making points.
makes it easier. Yeah, sure.
Also, Jules, Hallison, as I mentioned, is a druid, so he can shapeshift into animals.
Oh, okay.
So you can also fuck him as a bear.
Literally as a bear. My boyfriend the bear.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Yes.
I wonder if I could like find all this on YouTube or something.
You
'cause I'm
can.
like, ooh, new
Oh,
rabbit
you
hole.
can. Yeah, there's so all the video, cuz here's the thing is they made it so there's so many different like options in the game that there's like unique dialogue if you play as a halfling, or unique dialogue if you play as a dark elf, or unique dialogue if you play as whatever, basically. And there's the funniest thing is there's a brothel, and if you make certain decisions, you get a joke bad sex scene.
A joke? Bad sex?
Like
Oh
it's
my.
cuz there's cuz it's basically you help the brothel out and they say as a reward we will give you one night with our two most popular workers. Pick one. There's a guy and there's a girl. And they tell you if you want freaky nasty shit, go with the guy. If you want sweet and tender, go with the girl. And so if you pick the guy and say, I want the freaky nasty shit, he then says, all right, what's the nasty shit you want to do? You can tell him, I want to have missionary sex with the lights off.
That's an option.
And he gets so excited. He's like, "Oh." And so it's very clearly like role-playing bad sex.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
Yes.
I read a lot of different I like historical romances a lot, but I also read quite a lot of these like kind of in between like erotica romance stuff, like sci-fi ones. I haven't done as much fantasy for some reason, even though I love fantasy as a genre. For some reason, I haven't done as much like read as much smutty fantasy. But I have to say, modern stuff has really like, as in modern written, not necessarily like taking place now, has really improved a lot since when I was much younger, where things were a little questionable. And so I love the fact that like so many games and things are just fully embracing
Yeah.
these kinds of things, because I'm like, it allows people to have fun. You can also, of course, play without that if you want to. But
And
I
on the fun side that's not horny is you can talk to every animal and they all have different interesting things to say.
Okay,
that's
so I
nice.
get to be horny and talk to animals?
Yes.
I mean, literally me. Okay, great, let's do this.
There's a spell called Speak with Animals, and you can literally talk to all the animals, ask them questions about what's going on. There's a cat in a church that tells you that the head priestess is a liar because she promised him milk and no milk has appeared. So clearly she is up to no good.
Liar.
That's amazing.
Be
And
my cat. That's how my cat acts about everything.
and then there is a basement where you can find a rat who is labeled the leftist rat. Who is like
The leftist rat.
oppressed creatures need to unite and seize like the food that is being hoarded by our oppressors, the humans. Like
Oh my god. So basically, like this, like there's the giant inflatable rats that you will see, like especially in New York, or outside different places when people are protesting. Usually, I think it's for pro-union. But so it sounds like that, but as like an actual playable rat.
like you
that's
can't
great.
play as him, you just talk to him. Like
Oh, talk to
and you can promise to help him in his struggle to kill the bourgeoisie and steal all their food.
That's so great.
This all sounds pretty wild, and now I have a new YouTube rabbit hole to fall down. Very excited about that.
Jules,
Love
I
it.
have been streaming it, so if you want to watch my run in particular, it is up on my personal YouTube.
That's
Oh
awesome.
snap! I will. I may have to take you up on that. Yeah.
I'm playing as a beautiful non-binary tiefling, who is fucking the sassy vampire character.
There you go.
All of that is like I loved everything you said. There wasn't any part of that sentence I didn't like.
Okay. Now back to talking comics. I just needed to let you know that Hallison exists because I feel like him and Mark Trail would be best friends and vibe, and maybe make out.
Yeah. Probably. They already let me get away with drawing Mark Trail having a slumber party, like sleeping in a guy's bed in the same bed as the guy. As long as they're in long underwear, that's okay. Because, obviously we're not going to show nudity on the funny page. I'm like, it's amazing what they'll let me get away with. So, as long as I'm careful.
Yes.
I like it that's it's nice to see. It's that kind of like, it's the anti-toxic masculinity thing of like that it's in, because I saw some weird stuff online. I didn't realize this was even a thing of like caring about the environment is weak or something, and I was like, what?
Because it's woke.
Like, that just seems so...
Because it's woke.
Yeah, it's so
and
goofy,
yeah,
I was
so
like,
It's woke and it doesn't serve it doesn't serve capitalist daddy.
ugh. Well, then
Yeah,
I'm glad
right.
that
And
you're
that's what
doing- Yeah.
every time I see those guys who are like, oh, climate change doesn't exist, and I'm like, the oil companies are not sending you a check.
Yeah.
Why are you giving away your allegiance for no money? What are you doing? You sold out so hard and so fast. What are you doing? Come on now, raise your rates.
yeah.
So yeah, I just keep up the good fight and stay talking about
great.
climate change and now I have to go back to talking about AI data centers now because they're turning into a huge problem, and I'm like,
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that article that's like AI data centers revitalizing the fossil fuel industry.
Yeah. That's not what you want to hear. That's definitely not good. Yeah.
it's all the way bad, and all these tech companies are like, oh, we're gonna go green, it's gonna be great. But the second they need an AI waifu girlfriend, magically we're all gonna die of climate change. Great, cool, awesome. We are going to get increased strength of storms, increased strength of winters, increased strength of the heat that comes onto the earth, all because a bunch of nerds could not figure out how to talk to a woman, so they just got an AI waifu about it.
Well,
I'm
it's
like,
not.
great.
It's not just that. It's also that they're mad that people are creative and they're not, and that creativity is valued, and they don't have it, and they're that is also what they're mad about.
Yeah, they're definitely mad because they want to remove the value from skilled professionals. So like, well, I could just get AI to do that, and I'm like, great, good luck doing that ish without getting 65,000 extra fingers and teeth and limbs and stuff. Great, I wish you the best of luck. I mean, the way I see it is that we can't stop them, so I'm like, all right, bet you want to make a whole movie out of AI artwork? Go ham. Let's see what you got.
When I first got on Blue Sky, people were talking about AI, and I made the thing as like, they never make robots to do tedious shit that we don't want to do. And I was like, I want a robot to do my laundry and wash my dishes. And someone replied with, do you know that there's a thing called a dishwasher? And I was like, yes, but I don't have a robot that will put the dishes in the dishwasher for me and then unload them.
Yeah, dirty secret of engineers. Hardware is expensive. Software is not. That's why they're leaning so hard into software, because developing hardware cuts too far into their bottom line. And also, I could probably go on a whole bunch about precious minerals, conflicts in certain areas of the world, like it gets ugly up front. Well, you know, the hardware industry is kind of a cutthroat place. So it's much easier to dupe people into thinking they're getting something new and cool when all they're getting is just a bunch of crappy software that's going to kill the environment. So, yeah. Did you know every time you use an AI query just once, you consume 500 milliliters of water that doesn't go back into the atmosphere?
Yeah, it just it's awful. It's even when people like share stuff. It's the other thing for me is that it's not intelligence. Like, this is not like, it's a complete misnomer. I mean, on purpose, I know that, but it's not intelligence. There's nothing intelligence related about what it's doing. It's programmed to do stuff by people.
I have some beautiful comments in the chat. Kristen Cheney saying it ain't gay if they're wearing long johns.
Yes.
And then Kristen Cheney also on the topic of the dishwasher. It's like, yes, loading and unloading the dishwasher is the annoying part. And someone being like, I need something to swap my laundry so I stop making my clothing stinky. Yeah, because you leave it in the washing machine too long and then it gets moldy a little bit and then it smells bad.
I've done that before.
I've got disabled people in my household, so for two reasons. One, for people with ADHD, some kind of way for, like, you don't leave the stinky stuff in there. And then the other being, like, physically, I don't know if people realize, I mean, my husband has a spinal issue, so for him, back-related stuff is a really big deal. So, you know, physically loading a dishwasher, for a lot of people, it's no big deal. For him, it's really difficult. So stuff like that, like, yeah, it really is the kind of thing where I'm like, no, really, we need stuff that's, like, takes into account mobility and a whole lot of things that would actually make a lot of people's lives significantly easier in ways that I'm sure most people are able-bodied and don't think about it. But it's, for a lot of people, there are applications. They're just not doing that because they don't care.
Yeah.
They would rather do the
Well, this is the thing, is because a lot of these tech bros don't do those things for themselves anyway, which is why they don't realize.
Yeah. They're like, laundry, I just send that off. Like, they get paid to send off their laundry. I mean, actually, that may not even be true anymore, because a lot of them are getting fired mid-meeting. And I'm like, so how are you going to make your life by in the Bay Area when you just got laid off?
They're all right-wing, so they're going to make their wife do it.
Assuming they have a wife.
Yes.
The big reason why we have such a demand for AI waifus is that these men cannot get wives. Women are looking at them and going, nah, I'm good. I'm getting a cat. Bye.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fair, you know, if you're going to keep us, you know, just a dude around who's just going to be hairy and smelly and, you know, knock your life apart, you know, you might as well get a cute cat out of it.
Yeah, we have people in the chat being like, when I lived with my sister and her family, she would load the dishwasher and I would unload it. Splitting the task made it easier for both of us. When I was growing up, so I'm one of 4, and my mom made the girls do the laundry and the dishes. And there's 6 people in the house. That was a lot of laundry and a lot of dishes. I never want to do them again. We didn't complain about this because she made our brothers do the yard work. So we got the better end of the deal there. But it's still like, that sucks. I don't want to do anyone's laundry ever again.
It's the menial tasks of stuff that are, I think that it's easy to take for granted, but they are time consuming.
Yeah.
And like I have a young child, so like there's a fair amount of laundry and dishes that get done.
Yeah.
And, like, I do have a dishwasher, but I grew up in a house where we did not have those, so like hand washing. So like I do default to hand washing more often than I should, where it's actually like what saves water and obviously a whole lot of time to just like put it in the dishwasher. But sometimes, you know what, I will admit, it's a very mom thing, but sometimes I get a sense of accomplishment from doing like some just picking up stuff around the house where I'm like, okay, I've decided this is the thing I'm going to tackle right now, because there's always some chaotic thing happening in my house. So it's like, okay, today is going to be, I will deal with these dishes. And that can feel kind of nice. But I would much rather be doing like literally anything else than that. It's definitely not, I'm just not one of those people who gets that sense of accomplishment very much from doing things like that. Like, I envy people for whom cleaning is this really like cathartic thing, because I'm like, yeah, not for me. I would really rather not ever do it. But
same. I would really rather just be playing with cartoons on my computer than ever mess with a dish ever again. I'm like, nah, bro. Solve the dishwashing problem where I can just throw the dishes in a box and it comes out magically clean. Cool. Then you will get lauded and appreciated in Tech Brolandia. And maybe a girl might like you. I mean, these tech bros are not even smart enough to realize if you use technology to make a woman's life easier, I swear we will throw ourselves at you. Like, oh, you invented the dish bot? Girls, get him. Ah! We chase him around like the Beatles, man. Like, come on, man. Give a little to get a little. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's the thing that surprises. I mean, it shouldn't surprise me, I guess, but is that there are so many things that would improve people's lives in these ways. It's just none of them involve taking away creative work. Like, that doesn't improve anybody's life at all, ever. Like, it just doesn't. I've been noticing a lot of like the resurgence of the term Luddite a lot. You know, for anybody who's not enthusiastic about AI.
People watching this stream should know what Luddite is, because it is the closing story in our last anthology, Failure to Launch. And it does.
I just got my book today.
Yes, the closing story ends with "We should shoot Elon Musk in the dick."
Perfect. Love it.
Love it. No notes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's a thing where people have turned Luddite into, a negative, but it was a workers' rights movement. It really
that's what the comic's about. Yeah.
Yep. It's just it really is very different, and so it's kind of been like the interesting thing for me doing a lot of just on my own as just amateur interest in the Victorian era, because the parallels to now are extremely relevant. Like, we're literally repeating in many cases the exact same pattern, and from social to technological stuff, so the same issues, we haven't really addressed a lot of them. So it's both interesting for me to see and also like somewhat depressing. But yeah, there's a lot of that. So whenever I see like tech people being like, they're Luddites, and I'm like, they care about workers' rights? Good? I don't think that's what you think it means.
You're a Luddite. I'd rather be a Luddite than a nerd.
I
mean, I'm a big
just
nerd.
Pluck them right in their bully nerve. You know they probably got bullied. So you just got to talk to them the same way as an 80s jock talks to them. You nerd! Why you nerding with your nerdness? Nerd! Nerdy,
You're
nerdy, nerd.
than I am. You're a lot more intimidating than I am.
It's true.
I'm about I'm about as intimidating as like a cup of tea to most people. So like I say it and they're like, yeah, whatever. I feel like though you saying it to people, they'll be like, okay. Like they would
They'd be
actually
like,
listen.
"Oh my gosh, I'm a nerd," and I'm like, "But I literally am a jock from an '80s movie. Like, I write and draw a cartoon about environmentalism, and I have beefy surfer girl arms. Okay, like." I mean, I am the enemy. I have become the bad guy. Like, if I had a locker to stuff him into, I might just stuff him into it. Just like, look, sometimes bullying is the answer, though. Especially if these are
I love
guys who are
the word.
destroying our environment and killing all our wildlife. I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe you earned this. Maybe you earned it.
I get told that I'm intimidating. That's not intentional on my part. I just have resting bitch face.
Yeah, but that's awesome.
I was told by when we met with Iron Circus's distributor, like their new rep for the first time. They told me later, they're like, so I thought you were very scary when I first met you, but it turns out you're just very organized.
Respect.
That's funny.
Don't
Hey,
hate the
that's
player, hate the game.
I like that. Yeah, I've only gotten intimidating from somebody once, and it was purely online. Like they had never met me in person. I am extremely not intimidating in person whatsoever. So, I have the opposite of whatever the opposite of resting bitch faces is my
See,
thing.
but you have your really big, wide Disney lady eyes. All you have to do is utilize the power of white lady shame. Shame on
Okay,
you.
that's true.
How
And
could you
mom
do such
shaming.
a thing? Just
I
mom
am the
shame them.
mom
Yeah.
shaming does work. It's true. That's true.
Yes.
Mom shaming
Mom
does work. I'm
shame
just
them.
gonna go
And
like,
Oh, I
true.
forget who
Just
it
I get one
was.
mom thing.
I forget who it was. It might have been Alice DeCampi who, whenever someone sent her hate mail online, she would find like their mom and tell on them to their
Yes.
mom. Do you know that your son is doing this?
that's a
I
lot of
mean, yes,
research.
because that is
Well,
there's a lot of
because it would
research,
be
but
like, because
I
they would use
appreciate
their
that.
Facebook. She said it was not that hard because they
Yeah,
would use
yeah.
their Facebook. So you just look at their Facebook friends and find their
My
mom.
mom.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, I tend to use
That's
mom
true.
voice. I just get a little bit lectury where I'm like, is this really what you want to do with your life? You have a limited lifetime. Why would you make the choice to be awful? And you'd be surprised. I mean, it doesn't always work, but there is a certain percentage of time where people will be like, where they just kind of like go silent, where they just don't
They
know
don't
what to
know.
say
They don't know
anymore.
how to
Yeah,
deal with that.
they can't say anything. Like, shame on you for wasting your time on this
I am
earth.
so disappointed, you know?
I'm
Yeah.
so
It
disappointed.
does
Because
feel
all
weird.
you gotta do is hurt him in the same way their mom probably hurt him. Just hit him at the same busted nerve. Like, God,
And the truth is,
get him there.
I am disappointed. I do think that it's sad to see people wasting their very precious lifetime in some of the ways that I see, where I'm just like, you could have any other hobby. You could be doing anything right now.
You could be playing
Especially on the
Baldur's
internet.
Gate right now. Why are you?
Exactly.
Baldur's
You could be
Gate. That
having a
sounds
good
like a winner
morning,
to me. Talk to
a
the
wholesome, horny
animals, see
time, you
some
know?
horny things. Yeah.
It's a much better use of time than being awful on the internet.
Yeah.
So yeah, that tends to be, and like now the mom thing kind of comes. I mean, my daughter's 9, so not that I don't. I'm not disappointed in her. She's lovely, but the being able to kind of go like, really, has definitely become much more ingrained in me at my age. So it's yeah. I try to use it for good. For situations where it really feels like somebody needs to get told, like, stop what you're doing, think about this for a second.
Yeah,
I
like
feel like
we
I'm
need to
like,
have a conversation. This isn't working the way you think it is.
why are you talking to people like that? Yeah, like that
I'm just
that.
kind of
But that's
sideways,
also
like,
where
mhm.
yeah, and it's also why I also take deliberate breaks from online, because I will get too invested in stuff where I'm like, okay, what is this adding to my life? Anything? No. Okay. So I'm gonna step back. I've got a really good app for that, Stay Focused, where I just put like social media on timers.
I have an app called Self Control, which
Oh,
one
nice.
time I was at a party and someone was like, "How do you stop yourself from procrastinating?" And I said self-control, and then several people thought I was just making a sick burn. And I was like, "No, no, no, that's what the app is called. I'm not being a dick."
Yeah, I'm actually because I had a couple people ask me how I like cut off social media time for things, and I was like, oh no, this app is Stay Focused, and you could put in with the ones whatever are the biggest offenders, right? And it actually weaned me of like when I was like just really could not do Twitter anymore and was just like I need to not.
Yeesh.
Here.
Yeah.
The same with like Facebook, and so it did become something where I could just like after enough time, I was just like, yeah, you know what, I don't want to be here really doing this. And I think that was something I'm very, very glad I did for myself and my mental health because, yeah, there was definitely a point where I was like, I am posting way too much. This is not actually doing anything constructive. So I'm just going to back off.
Yeah, Elon accidentally did me a favor by making Twitter completely unlivable. I was like, I do spend a lot of time screaming and hooting and hollering on this thing that I could be doing anything else. Like I said, that's why I pour all my energy into TikTok. TikTok is my little experimental movie playground, and like usually the newest, hottest Love Jules stuff is always on my TikTok first. YouTube videos just require a little more preparation. That's why TikTok is it's the perfect for directors with possible ADHD.
I just get linked to other people's TikToks. Like that's the only way I consume TikTok. I appreciate other things people are doing with the platform. A TikTok that's been going around lately is what if Gen Z wrote the ad copy for the Armory Museum in Leeds.
Oh my god.
So it's an old, very serious British man saying stuff like this armor is sending main character energy. And
that's hilarious.
Henry V was the original RZA. His codpiece just hits different. And
that's fantastic. I love it.
It's beautiful. I will send it to you after the show.
Yeah, I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen little clips of it.
I feel like my age is definitely getting to me at this point where I'm like I can't keep up. So, and I'm still trying to figure out like how to do because I know for video stuff, and I like watching them. So like I know it's a legitimate thing to do, like art tutorials or just kind of like watching people just do something. I don't even need it to be instructional. Just watching people make stuff, I get a lot of enjoyment out of. I've been thinking about doing that myself. I don't know if anybody would actually want to watch me do straw because like I'm always winging it. Like I don't know, like 90% of the time I start something just kind of go with it until it becomes something that I'm happy with. It's not, I don't always have a plan for stuff. Like these little axolotls are, this one I have more of a plan because it's just, I was like axolotls in sweaters with tea. So like that I have more of like, I know what I'm doing basically, but a lot of other stuff that I do will be kind of like, I think of it as being kind of like stream of consciousness art. So that's what I mean, like when I say like I don't think my technique is right, because I see other people doing like watercolors and they're very like regimented and they know like the sections and they start with this and I'll be like blah blah blah, just kind of doing my own thing and then coming back around to being like, oh, I probably should have kept that part lighter first. Oh well, but it's still fun for me to do. So I think that's something just to kind of like, I like sharing stuff. I always like seeing people's random stuff, so I always kind of try not to get into my head too much and assume what people want to look at, because you never know. Like there's pieces I've shared that I thought that I liked, but I was like, nobody's gonna like this thing. And then other people are like, I love it, and I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. So I've tried to stop myself from assuming too much, like what other people are going to get something out of, because I honestly never know.
That's true. You really never know which pieces are gonna hit and which pieces are just gonna fizzle out and not get that much attention. I always love seeing your artwork when it shows up on my socials. I've just kind of learned, especially with my comic Love Jules, that I don't care what other people want. I'm just going to scream into the void, and I have things to say and funny stuff to say, and if you like it, great. If you don't like it, I don't care. You can feel bad. I don't care. I
personally,
keep Diamond.
personally, I just want to draw and talk about my werewolves, and everyone else, like,
Yeah.
if they're not here for it, they can leave.
Perfect. Yes, I agree.
That's I love the werewolf stuff because like I also have a big I love werewolves and I when I was thinking about like stuff for this one I was thinking about the fact that Jules you have those great the surfer comics which I find fascinating because I know nothing about surfing so but I did do a comic a while back about a surfer werewolf and so now I always find it much more interesting to like see your updates on what you're doing and how you're figuring that stuff out and like I love seeing that you just were like I'm gonna start doing this because I want to and I always think that you're better off approaching art from like, what do I want to do and what I want to see, no matter what anybody else thinks. Because if you second guess yourself about that, you'll end up creating. I mean, honestly, you'll end up creating crap that you want. So it always has to come from some place of self interest. I feel like because it's otherwise, it's just creating for things that and you really can't predict it.
Um, I just want werewolves all the time. Give them to me. Though I have found that I'm incredibly picky when it comes to werewolves made by other people. Frequently people recommend stuff to me that it's like, oh, there's werewolves in this, so you will like it. And I do politely thank them. But sometimes it's like, oh, I have very strong opinions and I'm already familiar with this property and I do not like it.
Yeah. I think we all have those things. Like I have stuff that I'm just like, I mean, I think anybody who's followed me online for any length of time knows that I'm like a really big Lord of the Rings nerd.
Mhm.
And the books, I do really enjoy the films, but I have my little criticisms and stuff. And like I really respect the people who are doing like Rings of Power, but for me, and I'll have to go back and check it out again, but for me it just wasn't clicking for whatever reason. It's completely fair for them to do what they need to do, but for me I was like, yeah, it's just not for whatever reason it's just not and it doesn't need to be because the Silmarillion is like you could not adapt that as is because it has like virtually no dialogue and like it's very like weird and stuff, but like for me that's just not gonna hit that way, and I think I'm kind of like that with fantasy in general. Like it as a genre, like it's something that like if it's not Ratchet-ish or sort of like the kind of like the Tolkien kind of stuff, it tends to be a little harder for me to get into, which is a me problem. I don't That's not anybody
I
else's problem,
was
but,
so I do a personal art stream on Wednesday nights with my buddy Alina. Like they're streaming on their stream Twitch and I'm streaming on mine. And because I'm not as invested in high fantasy the way I am in werewolves, I
Sure.
can usually, even if I am not 100% on board with a thing, I will still like see, okay, it's doing this structural thing that I found interesting. So like last night Alina and I were talking about Game of Thrones and George R. R. Martin's writing. And neither of us particularly like his prose. But I appreciate some of the structural stuff he was doing in the book. So I am still like glad I read it, even though it's not like my favoriteest book out there. Because I did like the way that he jumped from third person limited to for different characters over and over again. I thought that led to some interesting reveals. But there's definitely, like I said, since I'm not as invested in fantasy that takes place during a medieval time period, I can be more detached.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
thing. Like I think it's important to know like something. I mean, I think it's age for me at least is partially where like I've gotten over myself in certain things where I'm like I would never want to adapt something Tolkien related because I'm too invested in it as it was, and I would be like a terrible person to adapt that. But other stuff where it wasn't like such a personal thing, or it's not something that I have the same like I still need to enjoy the thing I'm working on in whatever capacity, but but then I can just enjoy it, and I don't have like some weird nerdy, like it should be like this, because like my interpretation is not everybody's interpretation, and you cannot judging things based on that all the time. For me, I've really tried to like ease that out of myself as a habit, because I know it's not super healthy, and you can miss a lot of really great stuff by getting too wrapped up in your own sort of like, this is how I see the character. It's like, yeah, but like somebody else's version of it might be like better. Like you just, it's kind of having to kind of just let it ride, I think, is kind of something I've had to learn, and I'm glad I'm getting older and realizing that, because I feel like I've haven't missed out on things as much by being too like set in the it should be this way.
Yeah, that's true. I like my fantasy settings anywhere but medieval England, and because I'm like, I just feel like I've been
really,
the medieval England thing a lot over my life. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, this again.
A really
Wow, even
there are a lot of other places. Yeah.
a really, really good fantasy series book I just finished is called To Shape a Dragon's Breath. And it is about a Native American girl in the 1800s, and she finds a dragon. But the white colonizers have a bunch of laws about who gets a dragon and who is fit to like ride and command one. So she has to go to dragon riding school, or they'll basically kill her dragon. And
Jeez Louise.
so it's partly like her having a culture shock of going from her village where she's surrounded by her people and not really interacting with their white neighbors all that much, to suddenly learning about how Victorian England sucks. And also there's some interesting stuff about so in this book, dragons don't always breathe fire. What they're doing is, apparently dragons, their breath can like separate molecules from one another. So the way their fire is working is they're actually taking hydrogen out of the nearby air and then igniting that. So dragons are really useful because you can like remove stuff that's harmful in soil for farming. You can so it's there's a
Wow, that's a really fascinating way to see those things.
Yeah, so it's basically while in the dragon school, she is figuring out how her tribe used to use dragons, because their native dragons have been extinct for a long time, versus the way the English people think dragons should be used. So yeah, it was a very good and interesting book, and there's going to be a sequel. So I'm definitely going to pick that up.
Like honestly, that's one of the best. That's one of the most interesting ways of looking at it, because especially like taking the Victorian thing with the industrialization and all the things there, and like I can hear kind of a bit of like with the hydrogen, like I'm guessing a little bit of like the steampunk.
Yeah, there's a little bit of steampunk going on in it.
Yeah, but making it way more interesting with that point of view and coming at it from that perspective. That's really great.
Yeah.
All right, I'm writing that down because that sounds amazing.
It's definitely like my one complaint about it is that the main character was a little bit too nice, but I like assholes. So me thinking a character is too nice probably means that the average person would enjoy them.
Sure. Yeah, I always have mixed sort of stuff. Like I think it's always contextual. Like sometimes I like jerks, and sometimes I prefer people. I think I my thing is always like I have a really hard time with characters who feel sort of like just where they don't have any agency. Although sometimes that's the point of a story, is that a character doesn't. So, but I often struggle with that, which is again like a personal thing, that's not a storyteller's fault. Like if that's what you're exploring, that's what you're exploring. But yeah, for me that's usually the thing, or like how people navigate not having a lot of agency is definitely interesting to me and storytelling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Whereas I just love it when characters are shit bags. I I especially love it when women get to be shit bags.
Well, yeah.
Because women don't usually get to be shit bags.
No, they don't get to be grimy and messy.
Yeah.
While I know Always Sunny in Philadelphia is not for everyone, the one thing I appreciate is that Dee is just as awful as the rest of the gang.
She's literally as terrible as the rest of the men. That's true.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why I do my webcomic, because it's really just about badly behaved women, but the webcomic, like, hello, would you like to enter the mind of a woman who's conspiring to destroy you?
Have you seen Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Yes, I have. I didn't see the final season, but yes.
I love that show. It's like, oh, this was made for me because she's horrible and it's a musical.
I support. That's a very I support women's rights and wrongs kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's what it is, and I liked it because as somebody who does love romances, but also knows how problematic they are as a genre, especially romantic comedies that have been done in the past.
Settle for that terrible man who you met back in your small town.
Yeah, the whole Rebecca's whole sort of journey that way of like who you as a person are versus these like movie expectations you might have of life and how completely unhelpful that really is. Was really great. Like it was really clear from the beginning that they knew where they were going with that. But that's one of the reasons why I really loved the ending is that, that's exactly what I would have hoped for. That that does not complete you as a person, and somebody's life is about a hell of a lot more than who they're dating or any of those things.
I love dirtbag characters. If they're just like, a lot of my writing is, how can I make this guy dirtbag character into a lady?
Nice.
I like it. It's true though. You very rarely are things allowed to be like, and it's different in different genres now. And I think there's been some more. Like I need to watch it. I haven't yet, but I heard from a bunch of people that like Love Lies Bleeding has very like dirtbag female characters, which is always really fun.
Well, that sounds like a winner.
It's also about female bodybenders, bodybuilders.
Yes.
So you get buff ladies being horrible.
Yeah. And Kristen Stewart, who I personally just love. So anything that that kind of just allows that. I think it's one of the reasons why, like, and I know other people, it's been a different sort of experience for them, but like I really enjoyed Fleabag because I'm not at all like those kinds of characters as a person. Like I'm very, I don't want to say like a good person. That's not what I mean, but I'm not very messy. Like my life is very like, about sort of caring for a lot of other people in my life. So I think sometimes for me it's cathartic to see female characters who just don't give a shit. They were like, nope. Who are just really self-centered and complete messes who just like rain chaos everywhere. For me, that's fun.
It's definitely cathartic, especially if you've been told your whole life that the only way to be acceptable is to be a totally good person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never make mistakes and never have, your own needs or just fuck ups. I mean, I think that's kind of the biggest thing too. For my daughter all the time, I sort of try to frame things because she'll get very upset about mistakes or like not knowing something, and I'm like, no, that's good. You learned something. That's not something you should feel like we don't come out knowing everything. Like there's no way. You learn the most from mistakes that you make. So life is not about getting everything right the first time. Like that's just not it. And it's okay to get something wrong. It's okay to get mad. There's a lot of that, making sure she...
Since we're talking about supporting women's wrongs, have either of you read the Scholomance series? Again, good fantasy books.
No.
I could definitely check that out.
So the main character thinks that she is destined to grow up to be... so her name is Galadriel, after Galadriel from Lord of the Rings, but she thinks that she is destined to grow up to be All Shall Love Me in Despair Galadriel, rather than That's exactly how she phrases it in the book. Because there's like a prophecy that she's gonna like destroy the magical system. And so she's like a misanthrope. And she's at a magic school where there is a chosen one character who keeps saving people, and she's like, God, I hate him. And I love it. I was like, this is the YA protagonist I needed in my life when I was in high school.
I think it's important too. There's a lot of self-sacrificing female characters, which gets on my nerves after a while because it's like it does not have to be about that. That was like a series I did a few years ago, Ash and Thorn. Like so I was definitely playing around with the whole chosen one trope, and I made the characters older, much older. The chosen one character in it is in her 80s, and because the whole like teenage girl supposed to save the world kind of concept like is one I have enjoyed in many stories, but there's some big problems with it, and I wanted to sort of see like what would somebody who is not at the beginning of their life, who is much closer towards the end, what would the difference be in how they handle that scenario. And it was a lot of fun for me to write. I got to work out a lot of frustrations I had for the world at the time, because I was really ticked about the election and stuff. Specifically Trump's election, not like, and it was an interesting sort of way of exploring that stuff, because that trope's in a lot of things, in that the self-sacrificing young woman, or just the sacrificial young woman, I think. And coming from a middle-aged perspective, at least, I was kind of like, I'm not really into that. That is not how I want to be. That's definitely not what I want my daughter to get the idea that that's how she needs to be.
I'm gonna sacrifice myself for a man who can't even handle himself when he has a cold.
Yeah, like I don't want her to, like, I want her to be a kind person, but I that does not mean ignoring herself and her needs, right? And it does not mean, never making mistakes, or never like having a different sort of perspective on that stuff. So I think ever since having her, a lot more of my stories have become focused towards like, what would I hope for her to get out of this story? Like, and I think I approach a lot of different stuff that way now, because of just sort of things I do and do not want her taking away from life. She's very self-confident in herself, which is a quality I admire, because I'm not really. But I want to make sure that as she gets older, that she doesn't, just lose that independence and that ability to be like, no, that's not what I want. Not that it's not frustrating sometimes, but like, I so much prefer that she be like, nope, I don't like that, than like ignore her feelings or instincts on things.
Well, that sounds great. We love that.
Have either of you read any good books lately, fantasy books? Since I dropped 2 ones that I really liked recently.
I haven't been reading fantasy lately, but I do. I was reading. What do I have? I'm constantly. I really like this particular sort of smutty romance writer, Ruby Dixon.
Nice.
She writes a lot of sci-fi, but also she has a whole dragon series set in post-apocalyptic Earth. That's really good, and like she tackles a lot of really sort of dark subject matter, but she does it in a really thoughtful and kind way. And like, yes, there's a lot of sex in them, but it's not like gross or done in a way that's like, like upsetting. There's always like a purpose to it, which like I don't necessarily think a sex scene has to be like plot relevant, but she definitely kind of does it that way. So she's got a bunch of ones. I was just reading, I think it's Dark Fire. It's the end of the Dragon series. And it was really interesting because the dynamic between these two characters is like, problematic is not even the beginning of the word there.
Messy.
Messy. But it's also like taken from the perspective of like what the world is currently like. It's like, there's no way for anybody to have a non-deeply problematic, screwed up relationship in this setting. Like, there's just absolutely no way. So it's interesting to see how somebody explores that. Like, and obviously different people feel different ways about it, but I personally thought it was really interesting that she's willing to at the least like give it a go, to kind of like take a look at
Yeah.
this and kind of go like, yep, this is really screwed up, and just kind of run with it. And so that's one of the ones that I've been reading and finishing up soon. But I also have like cross stitch stuff. I was like, I have my my Kindle is just awash in the weirdest combination of things. Just looking at it, 'cause I tend to read more than one book at a time too. So
Yeah, all I have on my Kindle is like just bear smut. I did start
nice.
listening to on Audible. I did start listening to Journey to the West, which is it's a fantasy story, but it's all the way to hell from
Yeah,
1500.
it's that's what all the animes are based off of.
That
Yeah.
basically what it is. It's just anime, the book,
Yeah.
like. And then
That's
you
awesome.
listen to it and you're like, yeah, this is basically how we got the very first anime. And it's just really interesting to hear kind of those old tropes, but in the,
I had,
kind of the different context of this fantasy story. It's real wild.
I had a friend describe it as ancient Chinese Looney Tunes.
That's not a bad way to describe it. Yeah, it's also prototype. It's just proto Dragon Ball.
Yeah, I mean Dragon Ball's based off it.
Yes, so it's very obvious. You can see where Toriyama got a lot of his influence for, especially Dragon Ball the series, not the other like
Not Dragon Ball
super
Z.
super duper,
Yeah.
the Elemental P, all the different Dragon Balls. So yeah, those are the things that I've been listening to, which is pure debauchery and clownery on my end. I do not read highbrow stuff. I'm just like, ooh, that's a book about bloody werebears. Guess I'm downloading it.
I have friends who write about slutty werebears. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I told you about Hallison for a reason.
Right.
that you-
I mean, I think we're all on the slutty werebear vibe.
Absolutely. That's why the whole like, would you pick a man or a bear? I was like bear, but probably not for the reasons that you think.
My joke response
just
to
be
that
like-
was I posted a picture of Hallison and said both. But
Yes,
There you go.
that sounds like the correct answer is yes. Man who is also bear. Just like, what? You guys are just mad that you're not part.
you're not on his level.
work on
And
Get on his level.
I was telling Meredith McLaren that the voice actor for Hallison, he's kind of an older, chunky guy, so he never plays the hot lead. And so this is the first time a character he's played is being lusted after by the internet. And as a
my.
result, he is reblogging every single piece of fan art people send him, no matter how horny it is. So I was like, if you want the good stuff, you go to the voice actor's Twitter, and he reblogs it all.
Oh wow.
Well, I love that for him. I love that he's having this like little moment. I love
Yeah,
that.
I'm not going back to Twitter for it, but I appreciate
no,
that
don't
he's
do
doing it. Christian Cheney says,
That's
"Bless
crazy.
him, he's excited."
It's adorable. That's like I love wholesome hornies. That's just great. I love everything about that. That's fantastic.
Forgot what I was gonna say before I was distracted by werebear smut.
Yeah, see,
mean,
I know what's up. It's good literature.
I had a friend who she did Western smuts with were characters in them. There's werebears. I think there were werewolves. I'm trying to think what some of the other ones were. I'll have to ask her if she's still like I don't know that she's still writing them, but like it was something she was doing for a while. She was definitely like her goal wasn't really to do like erotica, but she was like, this has been really fun, and I've learned a lot about writing in the process. And I'm like, yeah, you have to really like it to make things like steamy and interesting to read. Like it's not just slapping it together. You do need to put some thought behind it.
Yeah, like set up the characters. What is the tension going on there? Is there a pre-existing relationship, or is this like a new saucy thing? Like, you still have to put thought into the plot and setting everything up.
So people are invested in it, what's going on, and and like with some kind of element to it. Yeah, it was fun seeing different people I know sort of try some of that stuff because they like a lot of people start off kind of skeptical about it, and I was like, I think you should read more, and you'll find that there's something for everybody. There's something for everybody.
Part of the thing that I get picky about with werewolves is a lot of werewolf smut or werewolf stories in general really like to use werewolves as an excuse for toxic masculinity to be in a story. Because they're subscribing to that bad animal research on wolf behaviors that
Boo.
and it's like
alpha thing.
so I was just like nope, out.
Also, the werewolf turns on the moon. Hello, that's a girl thing, not a boy thing.
Okay. This is where I crack my knuckles and bust out my werewolf facts.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna werewolf it up.
The full moon didn't start or become a werewolf thing until the 40s. The
Mark Trail time. All right.
The Wolfman movie is the first time the full moon makes someone transform into a werewolf. And because it's supposed to be a ticking clock to add tension to the story. So the reason why a lot of werewolf movies are bad is because they are trying to reproduce the full moon trigger, but that means your character gets bit at the beginning of the movie, and then there's a whole lot of movie where they can't transform again until the climax of the movie. So that leads to a severe pacing problem in your movie.
Yeah, like I want more werewolves, not less.
So the best werewolf movie, which is unfortunately made by a murderer, American Werewolf in London, is got around that pacing problem by having the titular werewolf character just be in a coma until the next full moon. So
until the next. Oh, Landis. Yeah. Talk about like problematic. Well, he's not a fave, but like problematic. Made some good stuff, and then yikes.
Yep.
And
then
it's funny how many horror things are like that people think are like how the myth always was, and it's there's a lot of stuff with vampires like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, someone's saying American Werewolf is so good. Yes, it is good. It's just made by a murderer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oops.
It's a very good movie. Unfortunately, yeah. A not particularly apologetic one either.
Yeah.
That's.
But yeah, so that's why you don't get a lot of female werewolves, because it didn't start until the 40s. And so people didn't start connecting the dots between moons and periods in regards to werewolves until a few iterations later. Like, I'm sure, like, in the coming decades, we'll get more of that.
Yeah, like Ginger Snaps, which I think is known for using that pretty effectively. I mean, that's
personally, I like when animals dream better when it comes to female werewolves. Because if you haven't seen that, it gets really into body horror because it's kind of implied that the whole town knows that she's a werewolf and just no one is telling her.
Oof.
So, yikes.
So it's also about, like, society needs to gaslight and control women to prevent them from seizing their power. So it's a very I like it a lot more than Ginger Snaps. I actually am very critical of Ginger Snaps because of the weird homoerotic subtext between sisters. And then the fact that, and then the fact that,
it's got some weird stuff.
And then the fact that they're like 16, 17 and haven't had their first period yet, but they looked that sexually developed. Like, I was like, there's a lot of stuff where I was like, this is too much.
You know, it's weird. The series is actually, because there's 3
Yeah.
movies, the sequel is actually better. Because it doesn't really deal with all of that kind of stuff, and like you can actually watch it without having seen the first one.
Yeah.
And there's also a prequel one.
Yeah.
Which takes place in
Like the 1800s or
Canada.
1700s, something like that.
Yeah. And those are actually more interesting stories to me, with the way that they sort of handle the sort of mythology. But because the original Ginger Snaps, like there's some interesting stuff there, but it's definitely there's also just some stuff where I'm like, I'm good. I don't need the weird sister thing. That's no thank you.
I don't need the weird sister incest.
Too weird.
Also, the werewolves die at the end. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
No, that's not fun.
When animals dream, she eats her abusers and then leaves. It's great.
Nice. Much more cathartic. That's a much more like satisfying, I think, ending for something like that. I'm trying to think of like, I don't think I've seen anything lately werewolf related that I was like, wow, that was really good. I'm trying to remember what the last thing was I saw with werewolves now, and I can't think of it. It's something that I don't think it hasn't been done a lot recently.
So
obviously there's been more like
so I've watched all of MTV's Teen Wolf, which I described to people as what if a shonen anime was live action.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because the power of friendship.
That does sound pretty good.
The power of friendship makes you a better werewolf. They never flat out say that, but they give you enough information that you can come to that conclusion and realize that is canon and it is true in the Teen Wolf universe. Because werewolves, like, their powers get stronger if they have a pack. And then later on, it is explicitly said that having a pack just means having friends. So the power of friendship makes you a better werewolf. Every villain of every season of Teen Wolf wants to find, like, the cheat code to be the strongest werewolf, but they never beat the main character because the main character is the best at making friends. He is basically Sailor Moon.
I know somebody who worked on that, and that tracks really hard with what their strength as a writer. That's really great. I like that.
It also, apparently when you become a werewolf in their world, you forget how buttons work, because none of those boys ever button their shirts after they become a werewolf.
We don't have that muscle memory anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, we just...
Oh, darn.
We just can't figure buttons out. They're impossible.
Buttons, how do they work?
I like it. It's an important thing. We don't need buttons. That's fine.
We don't need shirts. I mean,
No.
see, I'm from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico, where we don't need shirts. It's too humid for that.
Another good, very recent werewolf thing, and this is a thing you can watch with your daughter, Mariah, is Wolfwalkers.
Oh, yes. That's one that's on my list of things to watch with her, because she loves anything spooky. She's really taken a shine to things like that, so she's always... And I'm always trying to find stuff for her that's, like, in that realm. And she actually, like... I mean, she loved Gremlins, for instance, which is, I think, spookier than that. But, yes, that is on my list of stuff. I would love to watch that.
It is. It is anti-the patriarchy, anti-colonialism,
Nice.
anti-Christianity.
Ooh.
It looked it. It had a vibe there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't wait for this one. Plus, the art style is like, phew,
It's good.
so gorgeous. Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's good to have a personal recommendation for that.
I was like, if this had come out when I was 10, it would have been my entire personality.
Love it.
Yeah, she's gotten into Star Wars recently, so that's our sort of newest, where she's watched all of them many times, and her favorite is Yoda, which I'm very happy to hear.
Okay, she likes a little green dude. We love it.
Yes, well, you know, she's sort of primed to love Muppets, living in our house, but But if she didn't, she would not like it. She's very like, if she likes something, she likes it. But yes, Yoda is the big thing right now. He is just like her whole world, and it's really cute.
Does that mean she's seen The Mandalorian?
She hasn't seen that. She's been curious about it though, because she likes to really compartmentalize between TV shows and movies. She's wanted to watch specifically just the movies for now, but she has asked us about the Boba Fett show. Um, so we're like, yeah, so that's the Mandalorian. She's like, that's Baby Yoda. Who she will never call him Grogu. Like that is never that's never gonna be.
I didn't know that was his name.
anything but-
He is just a baby Yoda.
Yeah,
Grogu.
What?
Yes, apparently it's Grogu. Nobody called him that.
Like literally nobody called him that. I really love when Mexican fans of Star Wars, they throw some like, Latin, especially Mexican Spanish flavor on it. They call him Yodalito. And I'm like,
Oh my
perfect.
God.
No, it's Yodalito.
That's
Let's
adorable.
go with let's do it.
Yeah, I mean in the show they call him that, but no human being who watches it calls it. It's Peace Baby Yoda. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody's
I
messing
Did
don't-
you watch
Why?
that Jenny Nicholson video about the Star Wars experience thing?
Yes, I did.
Where she talks about you can tell who a paid shill is because they call it the like Galaxy's Edge Star Wars experience, blah blah blah, rather than
Yeah.
just the Star Wars hotel, which is what
Yeah.
every regular human being calls it.
Person calls it. Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing. Like, he when that character kind of came on. I mean, he was destined to be. I don't know how they didn't know that he was going to become insanely popular. Because it's a Baby Yoda, guys. Like, of course. But
They designed him to be cute, and then they're surprised he's popular that he's cute. And I'm like, really, guys?
He eats little frogs with the leg poking out. I was like, come on. Yeah, that was going to be a hugely popular character. But yeah, I think for my daughter, she always likes the characters who are that are quirky. She definitely prefers characters who are interesting and offbeat and alien, obviously sometimes, or monsters and things like that. Like she's super interested in all that kind of stuff. She's really like figuring out horror stuff for herself at the moment and trying to figure out what that means to her. Like she's very I mean, she likes to watch stuff that like you couldn't pay me to watch. Like she'll watch like vet videos of them doing like surgeries on animals, and I'm like, nope, I'm good, thanks. She is not fussed by that stuff at all. So she has a different approach to this kind of stuff too than I do. It's always really interesting watching stuff with her and seeing like what she's getting out of the story and what she's relating to and how it like makes her feel. So I always like watching stuff with her because of that, because she's got such a unique perspective on stories and like what it is for her that speaks to her about something. And I'm always curious which one she gets most invested in, because it's obviously not going to be the same that I get invested in. And sometimes it is, and we'll have that in common and talk about that. But other times I'm more interested in the stuff that she's interested in, because I know what I'm interested in. So I'm always curious like what she's gotten out of the same thing. Like we saw Inside Out 2 in the theater, and that was really the first like theater film we did.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been talking now about wanting to see Beetlejuice too, because she loves that, and I obviously would watch that with her in a heartbeat, because I'm still at heart a little annoying goth kid from.
Have
the
you
90s.
seen
So-
the Beetlejuice musical?
I've only seen clips of it. I haven't seen the whole thing.
All I heard was the cheese me around the Republican senators were feeling each other up during the musical.
Oh,
I'm like,
ugh.
dang, how saucy is that Beetlejuice musical? What's going on over there? Yeah, that's the only thing that I know about that musical, that Republicans sure like it.
One specific one, apparently. No, I was really interested in the musical part of that, because it is that kind of like really Beetlejuice has that big drama, kind of
Yeah.
in the showmanship aspect of it. So like, and my daughter loves music. She has like the most amazing singing voice. So but sometimes she also has a really strong reaction to music, where she's like, if you put that near her, she'll be like, get that off of here now. I'm like, okay. So I always have to sort of temper that with things, because she does like it, but like she's like, one of her favorite things right now is the original Fantasia,
Mhm.
the old one. And her favorite part is the first part, the toccata fugue, which is like the non-storytelling, the ones that's just imagery and sort of evocative, which I find really interesting. And she now has all of that sort of, but she likes to have the sound off so that she can sing the musical part herself, and go through all of those different parts. And she's got, what was it, sassy hippo is her word for the is her title for
The ballet one.
Dance of the Hours. Yeah, the ballet one.
I don't know
She
any
loves
of
that
their
one
real
too, 'cause
names. I also mostly watched it as a kid, and so it's the hippo ballet,
Hippo
the
ballet,
centaurs,
Greek
the
centaurs,
like
like that's really
yeah,
it's
the Greek mythology centaur thingy.
Yep.
the dinosaurs
And you
dying,
got
Like
the,
not on
the
yeah, the dinosaurs. You got the devil dude
Mhm.
at the end.
yeah.
Yeah, Night on Bald Mountain. She's definitely taken a shine to that one because of all the demony Halloween vibes and stuff. She's definitely taken a big shine to that one too. Yeah, it's called Dance of the Hours. I had to look that up because I did not remember from when I was a kid the hippo. She likes that one because there used to be hippos at our local zoo, who she guys called the Schlumpy hippos, and they definitely were. And I need to show her pictures of that little baby hippo that's making the rounds on the internet because goodness,
Moo dang.
that thing. Yeah, boy, is that little chonker hilarious. And I have a feeling she would just adore that one. So, yeah, anything like that, like animals doing non-animal things, is always a big hit.
So she should definitely watch Wolfwalkers with you.
Yeah, I have a feeling that one's going to be a big. She'll get really interested in that, and I think the art style. Like I know she's seen like the thumbnail and stuff of it too. So.
It's not spooky. It's more just, kids having fun times in the woods. She should see Little Shop of Horrors if you haven't shown her that yet.
I haven't yet, but that was
classic.
on my list. I've been making this like slow list of especially 80s. It's funny how much of it ends up being like Gremlins, which I know for some people will be too much, but for her was exactly the right amount of ew. Where it's a little bit funny, like it's also
So
goofy at the same time.
as a kid, really liked Gremlins too.
Oh, me too. I still do. I know it's terrible.
I wasn't as into Gremlins 1, but
no, I was more into 2.
yeah.
The total slapstick weirdness of that one.
Yeah.
Was more my jam. She likes both of them very much. The first one, she loves the goopy scene at the end, where it's really just gremlin soup, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She loves that. And then the second one she loves because of that whole entire, like, where it's a mass gremlin soup of just disgusting. She is not at all phased by stuff that, like, when I was a kid, even though I liked those things, I definitely was like, ugh, like, I had a hard time watching it. She's just like, look, it's goopy. Like, she loves it. So that's really nice because it does open up stuff that she can watch that she'll have fun with, that won't, like, give her nightmares. Like, she'll be fine with it. Little Shop is on my list. I have a couple other things too, because I think she's in a
Chat, what are spooky kids
I
movies that Mariah should show her daughter? There's
Yeah,
probably
ask the stream.
there's probably a delay, so we'll wait for them to so yes.
Because, we've obviously watched some of the Beetlejuice isn't obvious when we've seen Coraline many times, Nightmare Before Christmas. But yeah, but she's also like more realistic horror stuff she's fine with. When I was looking up stuff, I was looking up, and I was just like idly checking the ratings on so many things from when I was a kid, and I was like, dang, a lot of this stuff was PG. That's like, when I think like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, it's because I'm pretty sure the second Indiana Jones was the first PG-13 movie.
Yes. I just saw that the other day that was the first one that really kind of.
Yeah, because they straight up ripped a dude's heart out. I was like, holy snap.
I didn't see
as a kid and being freaked out.
So we got people saying that as a kid they were terrified of the Brave Little Toaster. Because that definitely has some horrifying moments. That is a movie that is full of scenes that adults making it maybe didn't realize how terrifying stuff was. Like the part of Brave Little Toaster that was always seared, in my mind, is the cars getting crushed on the conveyor belt, like in the junkyard. But then there's like the vacuum having a panic attack and trying to like eat its own cord to kill itself. And
Yeah,
then
those are big. Those are.
yeah.
It's kind of like Toy Story with the melting,
Yeah.
in the track thing. My daughter is definitely, she's like, that's really a lot, and I'm like, fair.
So we have people
that one, like,
saying
emotionally was-
Hocus Pocus. Kristen
Yeah,
Cheney
she brought
says
that one, yeah.
Poltergeist is PG.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
Older
And
guys
it's
like
goofy.
lived in my nightmares. You kidding me?
Yeah, and it's goofy, so it
and
might be-
Oh, it's very goofy.
Miss Ellesmere
Yeah.
is saying anything by Don Bluth.
Yep.
Oh, Secret of Nim.
Yeah.
If you're gonna
Yep,
go,
that's
if you're
another
gonna
one.
go hard. Like
That
Secret
one,
of Nim.
well, yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, we were watching something the other night, and a character's mom was dying. Oh, it was Star Wars. It was one of the prequels, and boy, she was very unhappy about that. And I had to do it. But this is what my kiddo's very interesting that way. Like, she's very sensitive emotionally, so like that's the kind of thing that'll upset her. You could like, she's watched Supernatural episodes with me where she's like, "Yay, a blood squib!" Like that doesn't bother her at all, because it's fake and it, she knows that. But an emotionally like difficult thing, then she'll be like, no, I cannot do that. And I understand that completely, because those would wreck the hell out of me when I was a kid too.
Trying to think of stuff that, see, when I was a kid, the animated Hobbit movie, Gollum in that, was seared into my brain as scary. I think it was his big cataract eyes and his like no teeth gums.
It's a good design, I have to say.
Yeah. We got someone also saying witches. Like.
Oh yes,
Witches
is a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good one
Really
too. There was something where Michael Keaton was a blue goblin dude. What was that one? Little Monsters.
Oh,
that
not
count?
Michael Keaton, but yeah, Howie Mandel was, Little Monsters is another.
Howie
good one.
Mandel.
Yeah.
I was so close. The other guy with curly black mullet.
Yeah, there's a really terrifying scene in that one too. There's like a lot of gross stuff, and then there's the Monster King kid who like pulls his face off. That creeped me the hell out when I was younger. I was like, that scene is still in my head where I can remember the lines from it, where it was just like, ugh. But yeah, that's actually a very good one. It's a good one for processing a lot of different growing up stuff and just in general. It's a good one. That goes on my list.
Sounds like a lot of great suggestions from the comments.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I found much more stuff in that way from like the 80s and 90s. In that way, it's definitely something that kind of went out of favor for a while after that. And she's pretty much okay with live action or animated, so she's pretty flexible with stuff like that.
I'm trying to think of other stuff that scarred me as a child.
Right? It's like, as a parent, I'm like, I don't want to like traumatize her, but at the same time, sometimes there's like, it's gonna sound weird, there's like helpful trauma where like it's not trauma, but it's a way to expose to different feelings and things and know that you can handle it. That's what I really love about stories that way, is that it can really help you with that kind of stuff.
This one suggestion is a little bit of a long one because it involves a 3-hour miniseries, or like a 2-hour miniseries. It was that old Alice in Wonderland from the 80s, where eventually she does confront the Jabberwocky at the very end. Like that Jabberwocky. That Jabberwocky.
There's also that like Alice Returned to Wonderland movie, like Return to Oz or something, where there's like the weird.
Return to Oz. That's got great weird vibes. That one is one of my favorites because it's unlike, I mean, obviously the one from the 40s, the original. They went very like a certain kind of way, but if you read the Oz books, Return to Oz, that creepy vibe is way, 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 way more like the original. So we're gonna hear my child screaming. It sounds like she's being murdered. She's not. It is just virtually 8 o'clock, so that's why. We
Yeah,
just have times
she's
of the day.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
just a lively kid. That's all.
Well, you
Uh,
know, she's autistic and she needs to there's certain times of the day where she definitely needs to express certain stuff more, and I find that like towards evening is when she's like, I'm tired of being quiet. Like we don't actually expect her to be quiet all day or anything like that, but just for herself, and so then she needs to kind of get that stuff out. So we kind of have like Kel, you'll like this. We do wolf howls.
good,
It's a thing where I'm like, we're gonna yell like wolves.
good, good.
I don't know what the neighbors think, but I don't care if it bothers them. Oh well. Where we'll just do like wolf howls and stuff for a bit, just to kind of like work out that energy. I like
Yeah,
it too. It's helpful for me as well.
that sounds fun. I think we all should do
It
howling like
is.
a
You
howl at
know,
the
I
moon. There's a reason why
you
a
know
great many bars and stuff they're named Howl at the Moon. So you get you get that energy out.
that's what I find. I mean,
She's
for
just
me,
being real about what
definitely
she needs. That's all.
exactly.
Uh, when was the last time either of you went to San Diego Comic-Con?
Oh, I was just there this year because I live like 15 minutes from the convention center, so like
Okay.
Oh, nice.
it's just easy for me to roll up in there fairly
It's
easy.
been quite a while.
Well, you know about Werewolf Bar, correct?
Yes,
No,
seen
if I had known
near it.
about a
Yeah,
werewolf
yeah.
bar, I would have found that ish. What?
Yeah, I've been there multiple times. When the Can I Pitch Your Werewolf reprint Kickstarter was successful, me and a couple of people that were in that book went to the Werewolf Bar to celebrate.
Nice.
It's basically the wallpaper is decoupage pages from Werewolf by Night.
Oh my god.
And then they that is kind of the only, other than the name of stuff on the menu, that's kind of all they got going for them. And when we asked why it's called Werewolf Bar, and it's because apparently they're like, well, we wanted it to be a hoppin' night spot at night, so it's rather loud if you go during the night. But in the morning, it's a really nice chill brunch place. So
true,
it
yes,
transforms
that is. I haven't been
between day and night.
That's
Like,
funny.
uh,
That's clever. I've only been by it. I've my daughter likes San Diego. We haven't gone during the convention, but I may change that up this year. But as in
Oh, I-
2025.
Why? San Diego Comic Con is a mess. It's like, what if a
So-
theme park barked all over
Well,
San Diego
yeah, but
downtown
see,
area?
That's the thing. She loves that vibe. So, like, one of her favorite places is the Santa Monica Pier. The more crowded, the better. So, and where did I take her? Oh, I did take her to the LA County Fair earlier this year, and she had such a blast. And they have a whole section of spooky stuff, and because it's enormous. It's a couple of square miles of stuff to do there. And so they have a huge farm. Her two favorite things were the farm, the animals, where she got to see like how big a cow really is, and then also the whole like spooky market. So she tends to like that. But I've taken her down to San Diego just for like fun, not for a convention or anything. And she really loves the Gaslamp District and everything. And it just so happens at the place that we've stayed, it's the Victorian Hotel that's down there. I keep forgetting the name of it, but because they said we have got haunted rooms, that kind of thing. But they don't really. But they do have a fun thing in the elevator when you go up it. They have little vignettes of like vintage stuff. That's just a fun kind of like cheesy thing. But yeah, so it just happens to be, it's very close to that Werewolf Bar, so you always see it. And I was thinking that the next time that we go down, we would want to do that. If I take her to San Diego Comic-Con, it'll be for like a day. It will not be, and like for as long as she can handle it, not for, I always let her sort of sort of decide those things, because she likes the sort of big sensory hit of those things. Noise and stuff doesn't really bother her. She likes kind of that input, but she does have a limit. Like, she's usually things like that for like an hour, and then she's like, okay, I'm done. But she's very curious about what I do. And I haven't, because of COVID and everything, I haven't taken her to any conventions and stuff. So all she knows is what I do like from home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for her to conceptualize like what that means. And I'd really like to be able to. Like, there's a couple other parents I know who've taken their kids to shows like Amanda Diebert and Kat Staggs have done that with their daughter and things. And I think whether or not she, like she doesn't have to be an artist or do any of that kind of stuff, but I think it would be good for her to see like the result of what I do, because she knows she's got my books around and she looks through them. And by the way, Kel, she loves Can I Pet Your Werewolf? That is like she goes, the werewolf book. Like she always wants me to bring that out.
I love that.
Yeah, loves it. So, and she also really likes this other book I did, was a middle grade. This is a while ago now, but Stitched, which has a werewolf character, is a werewolf girl in it, but the main character is a kind of based on Frankenstein, like it's a girl made of different dead girls, and sort of following her around. But so she really likes those. So like obviously she's grown up with us with spooky stuff around the house, so she's not. It doesn't bug her, but I just kind of want her to see what it's like. And Comic-Con's the kind of thing where she's seen stuff like it's reached enough of a cultural sort of a thing that like kid stuff mentions it sometimes, especially with like animation and things. So she's curious. I'm not going to start her on that. Like I'll take her to smaller.
If you guys need a place to just vibe and chill out, just I'm literally 15 minutes from the convention center, so like just come over here and just decompress.
It's nice. I used to live on Island Avenue down there, so but for me it's like I know how to like avoid a lot of the stuff that's more crazy.
Okay, then you already know the score then. Okay, cool.
No, but but places and people to hang out with who are just kind of like not the craziness. Like I almost went down this year just to not really participate in the show, because everything I'm working on is like for book publishers, so none of it's announced, so I can't talk about any of it. I've got like 4 massive projects that I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to talk about, because how publishers just are announce things much slower than comic stuff tends to.
Yeah.
But,
I had someone pitch Iron Circus an anthology, and they wanted to hit a certain anniversary date, and they were emailing me like 6 months before, and I was like, all right, well, this is not going to happen, because Iron Circus actually works on a book publisher schedule, not like a monthly comic schedule.
Yeah.
And so while this is a very cool idea, we cannot possibly get it out in 6 months. Like we don't got that power.
Yeah, there's no, and it's not something I think anybody should really be doing. Comics publishers doing it, they do it because they've always done it, but it is not the ideal whatsoever. Like having the time to see the stuff that's being done on these other projects that I'm working on has been really nice, and kind of getting to work on stuff like these are adaptations, so they're not my work in the sense of like I'm adapting other people's prose books. It's taught me a lot just as an adaptive process, but just in general about some things that just kind of a little trial by fire. Like I've adapted stuff before, but like these were much larger projects. But the time-consuming nature of these, like these publishers are taking it seriously, and so they're giving these books the time that they need to be done. So like they're not trying to just shove them out.
I do think that is a little bit rare when it comes to prose publishers dealing with graphic novels, because I think a lot of them don't realize how long comics actually take.
Yeah, I'm lucky that one of the editors I worked with came from comics originally, so 100% knew that. The other editor, I think, comes from prose. It was a little bit different, and it's kind of learning as they go with it a little bit of like what you can and can't reasonably expect from people. It's also something I do in consulting work a lot, like when people outside comics want to do them, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, especially film people, like their timeline for things, I'm always like, that's not going to happen for what you want. Like that's literally physically impossible for a person to do. So, and that's always, I think, the sticking point for a lot of them is they want it done in like a movie time frame, and I'm like, no, like that's not. No, they have to physically draw these pages.
Yeah, no. I had a publisher that I worked with that they're originally a prose publisher, but they wanted to try out graphic novels with me. They gave me for a 125 page graphic novel. They gave me 6 months to finish it, and like a dumbass, I agreed to this because I guess you can finish a graphic novel in 6 months if I tried. I had to cut every single corner known to man. That book is literally a sphere.
Yeah.
I cut every damn corner just to make those graphic novels out.
I had a friend who got a graphic novel deal, and when the publisher first gave them the deadlines, they were like, this seems hard. Like, but it was like their first time doing something on like for a publisher, so they weren't sure what the norm was because they'd only done webcomics before. And I was like, all right, I'm going to put it to you this way. Marvel and DC want 22 pages a month. And to get 22 pages a month, they have to split it into multiple stages with a different person writing, a different person doing pencils, and a different person coloring, and a different person doing...
Otherwise,
yeah.
it's one creator, it takes longer.
Yeah. So I was like, so if they want you to produce more than 22 pages a month, and they're not paying for a colorist and a letterer, they're asking for something unreasonable. And I always like use that as sort of the guideline when I advise younger people is like just to put it to perspective, like.
Yeah, and burning yourself out for it is not. I think it's like I remember myself when I was in like my 20s and burning myself out really hard, and I was just editing, and I was doing far too many books a month and trying to do different things. And it's something that, in hindsight, I look back and go, boy, I really wish that I had realized that this was like just physically taxing. Like it sounds silly because it's like it's editing, but like it is a lot of work, and it's so much more for the people who are making physically the pages. Like I think it was good. I got to physically get art in at the time. Like this is 23, 24 years ago. So I would get, and I was working at Vertigo then. So I would physically get pages from people. Like I got Mark Buckingham pencils, and then it would go to Steve, and he would ink them. So like I got to see how that whole process worked. It definitely makes you very mindful of how much time it really takes.
Mm-hmm.
And even that, and those were monthly comics, and even that those schedules were always falling behind.
And
also,
and
not because of the artists,
I think that's good that you got to see the traditional pages like happen, because a different friend of mine was working on a project, and I think their editor and writer had only worked with people who worked digitally. So when they were told, like, hey, can you re-ink this because we're not digging this inking style, they were surprised when my friend who works traditionally was like, no.
Yeah,
no, not at all.
Yeah. Like, unless you want me to completely redo it. Like, and then when told that my friend works traditionally, their reaction was kind of like, why?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I mean, I love digital work that people do. I just stink at it, so it's not, and it's something I haven't put the time in to really figure out myself. The other weird thing is that people seem to think that like, oh, it's digital, like it's like it happens magically or something. I'm like, no, people are still making this from layering and doing all this kind of stuff. It's still
but there is still like, if your inks are on another layer, then your pencils and you're re-inking it, you can just delete that layer and start over.
Yeah, that is one of the benefits.
But if it's traditional, like, well, I inked over the pencils.
Oh yeah, you just asked like, dear God, yeah. Which is why you always get samples and stuff first. Like we always, you made sure like when you're working with people, so editors would use their instincts to pair up, inkers and stuff. But always do sample stuff first, that you knew what how things working and making sure everybody was cool with it. Obviously, because you did not want that to happen. That's the last thing. Because that's like nightmare territory in publishing, where you're like, oh no, like that would be a horrible disaster.
I think it's just because like brushes for digital work have gotten so advanced that they genuinely couldn't tell.
They are. I mean, I've seen stuff where I couldn't tell, and I'm like, wow, no, that's amazing. That really looks like the brush strokes, the individual, and obviously, like also how so many artists, make their own brushes for things too now, which I think is amazing. So they can really customize like for the shapes and things the effects that they're going for. Um, yeah, I'm totally in awe of that because I'm still of a pencil, ink, and watercolor, whatever thing you can use on
I pencil to digitally, because it's easier to move layout stuff around that way.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
then I print stuff up and I ink traditionally because if I am inking digitally, there's an undo button and I go, that line could be more perfect.
Oh, sure.
And I
That's the other half
Back.
of it too.
get stuck in that like weird
Yeah.
thing of like, let's redo this line. No, let's redo it again. Like,
Oh, I've seen folks
Yeah,
get caught in that little storm drain. That's no fun. Don't be living like
I have
that.
to remind myself of that writing sometimes where I'm just like, okay, you cannot noodle that line forever. Like it's one line. You got to finish
yeah.
the whole thing. Like maybe it won't be the exact perfect quip you were looking for, but that's fine. You have to get it done. And also, because I do come from editing first. I have to remind myself finish it first, then go edit. Do not edit as you go because that'll just get you like hung up on things. That like finish the script, then go back through it, just like I would if I was just the editor on something. Because otherwise, I'll get too stuck in like the noodly crap, and that's definitely not a good idea.
All right. It is 8:00. That is usually the time
Right.
that the show ends.
Thank you.
Jules, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on the internet on either YouTube, Love Jules. You can find me on TikTok, Love Jules there. You can find me on Blue Sky. I'm Love Jules there. Find me on Substack. I've been putting a lot of stuff on my Substack. Just Love Jules. You can just JOOLZ. Just Google me. I'm
You have
easy
your
to
brand.
find. Yeah, that's my brand.
It's good.
Tough love, literally a heart with knives in it. That's my logo.
Mariah, where can people find you?
I use Monster Tea Time on Instagram, Monster Tea Time, or just my name, Mariah McCourt, on Blue Sky as well, actually. And I have a Patreon, also Monster Tea Time, where I do sketches and short stories and crafts and ruminations and things. So I am doing more and more of that kind of stuff. And I do still have a Twitter, I just don't really use it, which is Tired Fairy, which I've sort of just eased out of. But you can sometimes get updates there too.
All right, I am Kel McDonald. You can find my comics at kelmcdonald.com. This is the Iron Circus Geek Show. Iron Circus's stuff you can find on various social medias as Iron Circus. Right now, we are crowdfunding a comics anthology called Perfect Crime Party. It is a lighthearted crime anthology. I tell people that we were shooting for tonally like the Clue movie. So if you have not backed it already, please do so. We are about 2K away from goal. We have 8 days left. And I'm gonna pull up the thing so people can see. Yeah.
There's so many creators and stuff. It's worth getting.
Yeah, it's a good time. We got a cover by Jeff Smith. You can see all the fun stuff that's going on in it. In it, you can get a print by Mariah. That is an ad for Poison. You can also, I believe there is one G-rated animal crime commission by Kat Ferris left. And you can also grab yourself all of Iron Circus's previous anthologies. That's it, everybody. Have a good one, and join us next week when we do the countdown for the crowdfund.